Welcome to the Play Action Podcast. Dave Farrell alongside Matt Brown and Joe Fortenbaugh. Here we go, boys. Super Bowl week. Very exciting. SBRodds.com if you want to take a look at all the different lines that are out there, because one of our starting talking points here is there's been a lot of movement in this line early on. The Patriots started as significantly bigger favorites, 5.5, even 6-point favorites. Now it's all the way down to 4. If you want to shop the lines, and that's very important, especially as that public money starts to roll into Las Vegas, maybe there's going to be some movement on the lines at the sports books in Las Vegas. Will that translate online? Again, SBRodds.com. You can see all the ratings for all the different books, and you can make all of your bets right there, depending on wherever you want to go. So thank you for being with us for Super Bowl week. Let's start by talking about the big money that's been coming in on the Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in right here. Your Minnesota Vikings losing to my Philadelphia Eagles, I feel that needs to be acknowledged. If you'd like to bend the knee, you can feel free to do so at any point during the program.
Yeah, as if the 38-7 beatdown wasn't enough insult to injury. Yeah, I'm sure that you guys saw that meme that was floating around this week, like ruin a Minnesota Vikings fans day. It's the U.S. Bank Stadium, and it's the Eagles logo being painted into the Vikings end zone over their logo. It's just stake in the heart, man. And the fact that it's in Minnesota is brutal.
That game was just, I mean, that if I could have basically made 10 predictions as to how that game would have gone, I would have gone 0 for 10 on the 10 predictions to how that game would have gone.
Minnesota just didn't show up.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been, okay, this guy, this is the score, this is the points, and I'd have gone 0 for 10. That game was a complete
Torrey Smith, back from the dead, catching a touchdown in double coverage with Trey Wayans and Harrison Smith. What are the odds of that happening again? Now, of course, Joe, the real story here is Nick Foles, and everyone, that the underdog thing has been embraced fully by Philadelphia. How much of a home field advantage was that for the Philadelphia Eagles? But the city really rallied behind Nick Foles. Do you expect that there is going to be regression in this game for the Super Bowl when he's going up against the Patriots?
And Joe, do you actually have an underdog mask? Did you go ahead and order one? Do you have one to wear? Are you going to have it to wear?
I expected you to come onto the podcast today wearing the German Shepherd mask.
I'm not messing with anything. I mean, the amazing thing is watching that game against Minnesota, realizing late the Eagles are going back to the Super Bowl. This is the third of my lifetime, but the first one, I was a baby. You don't count that. So this is just the second. And the last time it was still fucking Tom Brady 13 years ago. Everything else has changed, but it's still Tom Brady. Yep. So I'm not messing with anything. My son's first birthday is this weekend. So with the parents coming in, my mom is this huge Eagles fan. She's like, what shirt should we put him in? What jersey should we wear him? It's like, hang on a beat. We're not messing with anything. This kid is not going to change his gear. We're all just going to go with what we're doing.
Terrible sex schedule. What are you doing having a Super Bowl baby? That's worse than a Christmas baby. That messes up everything.
It was a huge mess. It was essentially a wedding honeymoon baby. And I planned the wedding 9 months right before the damn Super Bowl. So this is it. I'm never going to get to go to a Super Bowl again for my life.
You bring up Tom Brady, and I think we should probably, before we get into the game analysis here, if you take out his rookie year when he didn't play and you take out the year that he was hurt, the guy has been to 8 friggin' Super Bowls in 16 years, in 16 seasons. Half of his time in the NFL he has spent in a Super Bowl. That is just absolutely absurd. I mean,
Matt, I don't know if I got this stat from you. I think maybe I did, but my favorite stat is that Tom Brady is more likely to go to a Super Bowl in any given season that he's played in than Blake Bortles is to complete a pass. So that's amazing.
Well, listen, he's definitely more likely. He's definitely more likely to go to a Super Bowl than an LSU quarterback is to complete a pass. I've dealt with that over the past 5 or 6 years. I mean,
here's another one for you. If you eliminate that first year of Brady's career, like you said, and eliminate the knee injury year, 2008, and chop the rest down the middle, you essentially have 2 Troy Aikman careers. 2. Wow. Tom Brady has already lived 2 Hall of Fame careers, which is unbelievable. I'm sorry, it doesn't top the Blake Bortles thing. That's fantastic.
Isn't it great? So obviously, we're talking about all this big money rolling in on the Eagles. And, I was just talking to you, Joe, about regression for Nick Foles. People aren't buying it. I mean, we're talking about 7-figure bets that are rolling in on the Philadelphia Eagles, and a lot of them, they're not even taking the points. They're just laying it on the money line, saying that I think the Eagles at plus 170, plus 180 are going to win this game outright. What do these people that are walking in and laying these, $1 million+ bets know that we don't? Like, how are they saying that the Eagles are going to win this game outright when they're going up against the Patriots, who have such an amazing history?
I think there's two factors they're looking at. Number one, the Philadelphia defense and the way it's performed. This is a very questionable matchup for New England. They say styles make fights. Well, the Jacksonville matchup was one thing for New England. The Tennessee matchup was another thing. This is a bad matchup with the way the Eagles play defense and offense inside out. It's what gives the Patriots problems. Let's ask ourselves, what coaching tree is Doug Peterson a part of? Andy Reid. Who went in the Foxborough and destroyed the Patriots back in week 1? Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. Feels like a lifetime ago, but those are similar systems with similar route trees, similar passing complex, similar checks at the line of scrimmage. If it worked for Andy Reid in that situation, it could work for Doug Peterson. Granted, Belichick's a master at making adjustments, and especially making adjustments on the fly at halftime heading into the final 30 minutes of play. But I think that's one of the reasons why you're getting so much excitement for Philadelphia. Foles has gotten better since he took over for Carson Wentz. He performed very well against the league's best defense 2 weeks ago. And now you've got an Eagle team that matches up very well with the Patriots.
If you like the Patriots offense, or if you like the Eagles defense, then you have something to jump up and down about in this contest right here. If you look, the Patriots offense is ranked in the top 2 in points and yards per game. And then you have the Eagles defense that is 4th against both of those categories. So you have basically 2 strengths of these teams that are going to be going head to head right here. I mean, the Patriots scored 28.6 points per game, but the Eagles only allowed 18.4. I mean, there's just basically, you keep going, and it's just contrasting statistics on both sides right here. And depends on who you think is going to win. Is it the Eagles defense is going to prevail, or is it going to be the Patriots offense? Because that's what it's going to come down to. I don't think any of us think that we're going to get another Joe Montana performance here out of Nick Foles. I don't believe that we think that he's going to walk out into the Super Bowl, a guy that is basically the biggest peaks and valleys quarterback you'll ever see, is going to step out there and beat John Elway yet again this week.
Now, Matt, it's one thing that really impressed me about the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game is Doug Peterson's play calling. It kept the Minnesota Vikings defense, who had been really impervious to getting shredded like that, off balance the entire game. Now, obviously, we're talking about, I thought Mike Zimmer had the coaching advantage over Doug Peterson. I was wrong. Now, when you talk coach to coach with Bill Belichick and Doug Peterson, do you think that Doug Peterson can scheme and do this exact same thing to Bill Belichick's defense? Because on paper, certainly, Minnesota's defense considerably better than that of New England.
Well, if we have things to go by here, I mean, we've seen this time and time again, not only this season, but even last season, namely the Super Bowl as well. Some of these coaches get into these big situations, Joe, and they choke. I mean, we saw it. We see it time and time again. Like things are working.
Doug Marrone did it in the AFC Championship game.
Things are working, and for whatever reason, they get away from it. We talk about trying to get too cute. Sometimes they try to get too cute in these situations and do things that hasn't been working for them all season, yet they decide that it's going to work for them in the Super Bowl. There's all kinds of reasons to think that there's a ton of advantage on the sideline. I mean, we all know there's a ton of advantage to the Patriots on the sidelines, but probably even bigger here when we talk about the experience factor.
There's a mental edge. There were a lot of people that looked into that Jacksonville game that Dave just mentioned with Doug Marrone and the Jaguars in the AFC Championship in New England and thought to themselves, why do we see this so often? Why do we see these teams race out to leads against Bill Belichick and the Patriots and then clam up and choke late? Same thing happens against Alabama. We saw Georgia do it in the national title game. Saban and Belichick are from the same coaching tree. They were together in Cleveland in the 90s. And respectively, they've each built in their own dynasties. Saban at Alabama and Belichick in New England. The mental edge, a lot of players in Denver talked about this mental edge that you start to get tight against the Patriots. Anybody else, you're beating them, you want to put them away. The Patriots, there's just this nerve, this concern that they're going to come back, and teams end up beating themselves. That's the big telling factor from what you saw in the AFC Championship game with the Eagles. They never throttled back on Minnesota at any point. They kept throwing deep, they stuck to their game plan, and they tried to put it on the Vikings for 4 quarters. Historically, one note we're going to get into here at some point is the trend of how New England has performed in the first quarter of their 7 Super Bowls under Brady and Belichick. They've never scored a point. If they come out slow in this game and Philadelphia finds a way to get up on them, the key for Peterson will be to do what he did against Minnesota. Stick to the game plan and try to throttle the New England Patriots, because if you give them a chance to get back in, if you all of a sudden decide we're going to go 3 runs in a row to burn the clock when that was never part of your plan, you're going to get caught. That's going to be the key for the Eagles. Get up early and never look back.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles are a very good team at playing when they're up. There are some teams, like we were just talking about, Kirby Smart in Georgia, the national championship game, they choked. The Jaguars, who you just mentioned, also choked. But the Philadelphia Eagles have a history of performing really well in that situation. Now, Matt, let's talk about this line because, I think we were together at the Aria last week when it came down to 4.5, right? And we were both like, oh, man, this could be an opportunity to go run over there and take the Patriots. Is it possible, in your opinion, that this drops maybe to 3.5? And you can only, you get the Patriots at just over a field goal, or do you think that maybe, as a public money rolls into Las Vegas with all of that cash pushing into the sports books with the Patriots having as good of a track record as they have for cashing tickets, that the line may move the other direction?
Yeah, I think we're probably about where we're going to be with this line. Maybe it goes up a little bit more. I mean, here's the thing. We still have not got official word that Gronk is going to be, he's cleared. We know he's going to be cleared. I mean, he's going to have 2 weeks to get back from this concussion right here. He's been practicing. They just haven't officially cleared him yet. But you got to think about these casual bettors, right, that don't follow injury reports. They don't have any idea about how it all works with concussions and different things like that. And they're looking at this going, well, I don't know if Gronk's going to play or not. There's no way I can bet the Patriots if Gronk doesn't play, and I think as soon as that ticker goes across the bottom of ESPN and it says Gronk officially cleared, he is definitely going to be playing now, then you put at ease some of these people who maybe are holding back on those bets for the Patriots right now. And they say, okay, now Gronk is playing. Now I can feel comfortable making that bet that I really wanted to make anyway, but I was trying to be smart. Like they were trying to be smart. They wanted to feel smart by saying, I'm not going to put that bet down with Gronk not being officially cleared.
Here's what I'm thinking. And I'm putting together a research project in the build up to the game. And I was talking to a lot of guys in Vegas today, specifically, who do this for a living. And I'm trying to figure out, where's the New England money? Because, Dave, you talked about it. You guys saw or were around the MGM properties when that multi-million-dollar bet came in on Philly. The South Point took a $500,000 money line wager on Philadelphia last week. Canner Gaming took a $700,000 money line wager on Philly. And then earlier this week, a $1 million money line wager via the William Hill app, which, here's the kicker, placed 4 $250,000 wagers because the app doesn't allow for $1 million wagers. Get on that, William Hill. What are you doing? Imagine having $1 million in a betting account. But anyway, I digress. So I'm trying to figure out, where's the Patriot money? All this Eagle money's pouring in. You're telling me the most popular team to bet over the last decade plus isn't seeing anything? Everyone says the same two things. And I heard this from 4 different guys today. Number one, look at the Super Bowl look-ahead lines heading into championship weekend. New England was a 7-point favorite over Philadelphia. Yep. Now it's sitting down at 4.5. A lot of guys see value on New England, but they don't want to fire just yet because they want to see if this thing keeps getting pushed down. My guess is that somebody at some point, late Friday, middle of the day Saturday, is going to get a real itchy trigger finger and say, now's the time to play the Patriots. That money's coming in. You're going to see the first book move, and then everybody who likes the Patriots is going to dump on top because they're not going to want to miss the number. That personally is how I see this thing going.
Yeah, it's interesting with the big money bets that you're talking about coming in on the Philadelphia Eagles, and where is that Patriots money? Because, when you think about the wise guys here in Las Vegas, that, the sharps, if you will, that move the lines, it's a little bit different with the Super Bowl because, there's so much public money. It's not necessarily just the guys that are the professional bettors that are moving it. And also, they're not necessarily the ones that are betting the $1 million plus on these games. To professional bettors, you guys know better than anyone, this is just another game to them. They're not looking at it like this is the Super Bowl. I got to run out there and, put my entire bankroll on this. So is that the sharp money that's coming in on the Eagles, or are these just a bunch of guys that have a whole bunch of cash that want to go out there and run out of a big bet, Matt?
Joe referenced that MGM bet that was, huge. Dave, you and I were sitting in the sports book whenever it came in. That was supposedly, through the grapevine, that was just a rich guy. That was just a guy who is very, very happy that his Eagles team is making it to the Super Bowl and wanted to put some serious cash down. That's kind of the rumor going around, and that's kind of the word that we're hearing, here. Joe, the other thing that I think that we can look at as well is, one of the things that's unique about the Super Bowl is compared to most games is the money line gets a little wonky as well, right? Because everybody, like these casual bettors, like to just take in more than they wager. So they love to bet just money line underdogs. And so I think a lot of that too, like you're talking about Friday, Saturday, whenever they feel that they have definitely got the very best of the money line for the Patriots. Because look at some of these places, it's already down to 170, 175. I bet you there is a magic number where these guys like start pulling the trigger super, super heavy on that money line. And I imagine it's probably getting pretty close.
From what I understand, the rule of thumb for bookmakers when it comes to the Super Bowl money line is offer a better value 2 weeks before the game. And the closer you get to the game, the value is just going to disappear from that number because they know the money's coming in. They know the number's not going to stop virtually anybody. So why not protect yourself? You don't have to offer the best possible value because here come 300,000 people to Vegas or whatever it may be for this weekend. Here come people from all around the world. I mean, the American Gaming Association is estimating $4.7 billion will be wagered in America alone. But that's where it gets fascinating. So you have to understand your market. If you like New England, playing it at 4.5, if you see it out there now, I don't think it's going to get much better than that. If you like Philadelphia, I do believe you'll be able to wait until this weekend to make a play on the Eagles because I feel that thing's going to come back up in Brady's favor.
Yeah, and like Dave, I mean, we look here, I mean, across the deal. I mean, you mentioned earlier SBR odds, but I mean, this is pretty much settled in, right? I mean, I've kind of monitored this over the last 3 or 4 days. I mean, it's every now and then I imagine one of these books is taking a pretty hefty bet and it moves a half point, but it pretty much is settled at 4.5, and I don't really see it, like you said, Joe, I don't really see it getting any better than that. If you're going to go ahead and fire on the Patriots, you might as well go ahead and do it. If anything, I think the number gets worse for you.
So 4.5 is where the spread is, but as far as the total in this game, do you guys feel strongly about playing that? Because I can see this game going either direction on this. Maybe this turns into a crazy shootout type of game, or this is just these two defenses beating each other up. Maybe Bill Belichick figures out how to slow down Nick Foles, and this becomes a much more significant grind of a game. So 48.5 is where that number is right now. Joe, starting with you, do you feel strongly about over or under on this one?
No, and I'll get to that in just a second. Patriots 5-2 straight up in the 7 Super Bowls under Brady and Belichick. 3-4 against the spread, however, with the under cashing in 4 of those 7 games. So we'll ask ourselves why. Why is the under playing a little bit more? Well, it's not as if there's a huge edge, but look at how New England starts their Super Bowls. They've never scored a point in the first quarter. 7 Super Bowls under Brady and Belichick, 0 total points during the first quarter for New England. 15 total points coming from the opposition, 3 in the one Giant Super Bowl, I believe 3 from the Rams in 2002, and 9 from the Giants the second time around. That's it, 15 total points. So these games, tend to get off to slower starts. Everyone's tight. Everyone's just trying to feel each other out. No one's coming out with the big plays. And that's why you're seeing, will there be a score in the first 6:30 of this game? Yes, plus 105. That's ludicrous. That's never what you see for a price like that. It's generally negative money. So my thought process here is if that's what we've seen before, and if New England's capable of game planning for Nick Foles and possibly slowing him down a little bit, maybe you look to the under. The initial gut when the number first came out was over. I'm starting to move more towards the under, but I'll say this, between the side and the total, there's a reason some Vegas shops are already talking about how they're seeing more money, more percentage of their total handle on props than ever before. Yeah. These are tough numbers to crack.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that first quarter thing, and I would say that's a trend, except for the fact that this Patriots roster basically turns over every single year, and they continue to keep doing this over and over and over again. I think from the team last year, there's only 14 players or something like that have contributed any sort of minutes, in any sort of quarters whatsoever to that team last year. It's absolutely crazy what this team has been doing. I mean, let's talk a little bit, before we really get into, where we feel the sides of the totals, different things like that, but just like game flow and how you think that this could go. Like, Joe, let's make a case, like a best case scenario for both teams here. So if you're an Eagles guy, obviously you're going to be looking at this through maybe some rose colored glasses, but
green colored glasses. Yeah.
What is the path to victory in your mind here for this Eagles team?
It's an over bet. It's early passing, often passing, big explosive plays like you saw against Minnesota. There was a point in that game where I think Nick Foles had 7 completions of 35 or more yards. Philadelphia just let loose in that football game, something we hadn't seen really against Atlanta, although to an extent we did, but there was some wind. You didn't see it at the end of the season against Oakland on Monday night against Christmas and Dallas in the game where they didn't even score. They finally opened it up and they connected, like Dave said at the beginning of the show. Torrey Smith suddenly back from the dead. Alshon Jeffrey, they get a great matchup and they exploit that. Zach Ertz is constantly a threat spread over the middle. If Philadelphia, in my opinion, wins this game, it's going to be correlated with the over, because I don't see the defense completely shutting down Brady. Brady's going to get his somehow if he's losing in this game. Philadelphia is not going to win a 20-17 type game. If they're going to win, it's going to be more along the lines of what we saw in that Atlanta game last year. Maybe 35-31, maybe 31-28, something along those lines. But that's Philly's calling card. Every time we've seen them play well this year, Carson Wentz or Foles, it's a very explosive offensive performance. Flip side, it's the shaky defensive play and early Nick Foles action that cost him in some of these games. So if it's New England, I think you might see it correlated with the under. If it's Philadelphia, I think it's correlated with the over.
Yeah, I mean, we know what we're going to get in Brady, right? I mean, like, we don't have any questions as to what we're going to get in Brady. So a lot of this, I think, comes down to which Nick Foles we're going to see. I mean, you look at these statistics, and Pro Football Focus had a passer rating of 23.8 for Nick Foles when he was under pressure. Yet against the Vikings, he was under pressure 11 times and had a rating of like 150. I mean, it was like he played out of his mind. And if you go back over Nick Foles' career, he has had these gigantic peak games and he's had these horrible valley games as well. I mean, there's no player more polarizing that I've really seen since I can remember, obviously, looking at this over the last decade. Then Nick Foles, whenever you talk about the ceiling games and the absolute floor games here. So, if we get even a balanced Nick Foles performance here, I think there's at least a decent chance that the Eagles can stay in this. But I think there's a very good likelihood that we could see a floor game here from Nick Foles. And if that's the case, I think this could get completely and utterly out of hand. And, that's one of the things that I think whenever we look at this is, whenever we're trying to figure out what is the most likely scenario for the way that this game plays out. And, the question marks all lie on the Eagles side of the ball, right? I mean, really and truly, we know that we know what we get in Brady. We know what we get in Belichick. We know what we get in Gronk. I mean, like, we know what these guys are going to be able to do. And then you look on the Eagles side and, a lot of these guys playing for the first time. You got a quarterback that wasn't even the starter until a few weeks ago. You got Peterson, who, Joe, you yourself have questioned a lot of his play calling and a lot of his actual decision making throughout the course of the year. Does that rear its ugly head here in the biggest game of his career? So, I mean, I think that all the question marks lie on the Eagles sideline.
So, like I was saying just a moment ago, I mean, 48.5 is where we sit right now. This started at 46.5 when it opened, and it's crept up, obviously, with the spread shrinking a bit, going from 6 to 4. So, Matt, I mean, this is a really tough game, right? Because we're all sitting here going, well, it could go this way or it could go this way. It's not like, well, we know that Philadelphia's offense is going to be able to light up this defense from New England, because we just don't know if we can trust Nick Foles yet. So let me ask you this question. Is Nick Foles the end-all be-all for this Philadelphia offense? Or if he has one of these floor games, is it possible that the Eagles are still able to pull this out?
No, I mean, absolutely not. I mean, this is 100% going to rely, barring like two crazy defensive special teams type touchdowns or something on the Eagles side of the ball. Now, that's something we just can't predict, right? I mean, the fluke tipped pass that turns into a pick six, the weird blind side that most of the time Brady's able to tuck, but this time he won't be able to, and it fumbles and they, scoop and score type situation. So those are things that we can't predict. Those are the things that we're not going to be able to do. So if we're going out of the fluke plays, no, this is going to be on Nick Foles. And can Nick Foles be serviceable in this game? Because at the end of the day, as good as the Eagles defense is, we know that the Patriots are going to get theirs. We know that they are going to be able to score in this game. And the Eagles are going to have to keep up. That's just all there is to it. I mean, third down is going to be a very, very big thing here. You have a team in the Patriots that were in the top 10 in the league, and then you have the third best defense against third down with the Eagles here. So, I mean, like, this is really and truly.
You should flip that around, too, because on the other side, Philly ranked third in third down conversions offensively. The Patriots ranked 20th. That is where the game will be decided, on third down. That's a great point.
Yeah, and so are you going to see these situations like we saw with for whatever reason with the Jaguars, where they're playing weird zones and soft zones, even if Brady and them get in 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, you can't give Brady a soft coverage. You can't sit there and let him pick apart a defense like that. So I mean, it's going to come down to whether these third down conversions are getting 3rd and long, I should say, are getting converted.
Joe, you mentioned it earlier. A lot of the sports books here in Las Vegas are seeing a tremendous amount of action on the props. In fact, that's actually exceeding their handle on just the game itself. In some circumstances, the Westgate is one of those places where they have a ton of props and they actually see more action on the prop side than on the game itself. Is there any props that you're looking at in this game that you really like and you think aren't a sure thing, but there's some of your favorites that you're attracted to?
There are a few. And I'm still fine tuning a lot of them. But again, when I was doing that research project earlier today, talking to a few guys who have been firing on this and who do this for a living, here's what I found out. A lot of guys are playing no and under. Doesn't matter the side, doesn't matter the equation. They're looking at no's and unders. The no, main reason being, as members of the betting public that are going to come in and fire on this stuff, right? A lot of people don't want to root against scoring. A lot of people don't want to root against yardage, against big plays. They don't want to sit there and root for no scoring first 6.5 minutes. We've seen all of it. You don't want to root for under Nick Foles 200 passing yards, whatever it may be. That's against human nature. That's why the game is moving towards a more offensive perspective. So there is value, just strictly from a number standpoint. There's value in anything that's under and no. Stuff that won't happen, stuff that won't get to a certain point.
Do you think that the most of that value is currently, or as we get closer to the game, that value goes up?
Both. I think you can have value now, and I think it'll get even better as the public becomes more involved in the wagering. One I'm looking at plays to and under in this situation. First half total 24 points. I'm going to play under. In 7 previous Super Bowls with Belichick and Brady, they've only had one first half that topped 24 points. And that was the game, I believe, against Seattle 2 Super Bowl victories ago. So that's about 3 years ago or whatever it may be. Like we said, New England doesn't score a lot in the first quarter of these Super Bowls, but I do think you have that natural feeling out period where unless there's a big play in the kicking game or a monster penalty early, and let's face it, I don't think any ref wants to throw a 55-yard pass interference flag on the first 3 plays of the game, right? They're going to come out. Everybody wants to settle in. Nobody wants to make the big mistake. I think with all that considered, you could watch 7-8 minutes tick right off the clock without anyone getting near scoring position. And I also think what you're going to see in this game is 2 defenses that all season long have been bend, don't break. All year, both defenses have been referred to as bend, don't break. We saw it with Philly in the Atlanta game. We've seen it with New England time and time again. You might see a lot of first downs, a lot of trips to the red zone, but then eventual stall outs, which would lead me to the over on total field goals made in this game.
Matt, anything for you as far as props go that you're drawn to?
Well, I mean, I think we should talk just kind of props like in general, right? Like a lot of these, you know, if you're a bigger bankroll type player, there are some props that have, you know, I would almost say are near locks, but the thing is the public is just never going to bet those type of props because you have to lay such big odds. But if you're a bigger bankroll type guy, I mean, like no overtime, for example, you know, you're seeing that at like, you know, minus 800, minus 900, something like that. You're never going to have Joe Public bet $800 to win 100 or bet $900 to win 100. That being said, only 5.9% of games over the last 5 years have gone to overtime. So, I mean, this is like the actual true odds in that are something close to like plus 1,600 of that hitting. But but if you bet that right now, it's like plus 500, plus 600s at the different books or whatever, because again, it's just so attractive to bet that, you know, that bigger number. So for me, if you've got the big bankroll, like no overtime seems like a near lock whenever you look at it. No safety. Over the last 5 seasons, there's only been 7.4% of games that have a safety involved. And so
some guy in Vegas dropped $14,000 on no safety to win $2,000. 14,000 to win 2. It's like you walk in with 14 grand. I'd like an opportunity to win 2,000, please. Vegas is like, sure, we'll take that.
Yeah. I mean, like another one that if again, you got to be a bigger bankroll type guy, but I mean, there's props out there that kind of some of these exotic ones, like will Tom Brady announce his retirement on the broadcast? I mean, he's already said he wants to play 3 more years. And even if he decides to retire, he's certainly not going to do it on the spot right there on the broadcast or whatever. I mean, the odds on this one are like minus 3,000, but still that's basically a lock. I mean, there's almost nearly zero chance Tom Brady is going to announce his retirement.
He's never done that before. Not once.
That's a good trend.
When we look historically, Tom Brady has never retired.
Never retired. At the end of a game. That's true.
I hope he does, just so Belichick, as he's celebrating and hugging Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia for the final time as they all work together. Brady's up on the podium announcing his retirement. And he's like, asshole, I traded away Jimmy Garoppolo.
Like some of these other exotic ones before we get into the player props. Like, so there's the Gatorade prop, obviously, that everyone always loves to bet, right? And there's actually some science behind this. If you want to believe this, there's actually no science behind this. This
line always moves on game day. Someone always figures this out with about 4 hours to go, and you see a major swing in the odds.
So there's been no Gatorade thrown on a coach in 2 of the last 5 Super Bowls, including the Patriots last year. So if you bet if you bet nothing, then, and plus Belichick seems like the type of guy that's going to get pissed off if you he might be the guy that is,
but Peterson would almost demand it. Like you would, Peterson may jump into the Gatorade jug.
And he's going to dunk himself.
Yeah. And if you got, and if you want to bet the Eagles, if you believe the Eagles are going to win, if you want to go with what happened in the AFC championship, in the NFC championship game, they dumped yellow Gatorade on him. So, so they did just 2 weeks ago dump yellow Gatorade on him.
You've got to think that, I mean, there's some superstition there, right? So, I mean, the Eagles go out and smash the Vikings. Like, let's not change too much stuff. Like, let's keep things as they were.
Plus, lemon lime's the best.
I was about to say, isn't lemon lime basically just like the generic flavor of Gatorade anyway? I mean, like, isn't that basically what everybody is?
Orange used to be the stuff, and then it's transitioned over the years. Yeah.
I was a big citrus cooler fan there for a while, but I've noticed you can only really find that in the South. I can't find citrus cooler anywhere else.
Yeah.
A bit of a side note.
The national anthem obviously is always super popular. So there's going to be tons of people betting the length of the national anthem on that. The past 3 anthems have finished between 2:04 and 2:09, but then 4 of the last 8 didn't even make it 2 minutes. So the line there, typically you want to go, you're getting plus money on under. So if you want to go like historically, as opposed to recency bias, I mean, listen, we have no idea there. Apparently there's no past performances of Pink singing the national anthem at any of these, any sporting event. So there's nothing to go by other than basically the trend of most of the time it doesn't even go 2 minutes.
Put it like this. Is there anything more degen you can do during a Super Bowl party than when the national anthem's playing, you're the guy just watching the stopwatch on your cell phone?
We've done it the last decade.
I've been doing that every year. Yeah. And I'll always have some noob come up and be like, what are you doing? It's like, quiet. I'm trying to listen for the
respect our country, and also I'm really sweating this 2 minutes.
also at a couple of the different books online, which again you can any of the fine partners at SBR Odds, I'm sure that you will be able to find this bet is: will the announcers say Pro Football Focus? Chris Collinsworth says it like every single game he does. Like, I mean, every single game he does because he owns it. Yeah, he owns it. He's going to say it. It's like minus 350 or minus 400 or something.
I'd play that.
That one seems like a lock to me as well, right?
Super Bowl. That's his company. Like that ad time's worth $3 million. Of course I would say it. I'd come right out and be like, well, I mean, here's the thing. According to Pro Football Focus. And then it'd be like, Al Michaels like, what are you doing? It's don't worry about it, Al. Don't worry about it.
Hey, my
focus on pro football, Al.
Yeah. I mean, it's like sitting here. Hey, take a look, my friend. By the way, a subscription is $119 for the year or whatever. But
totally worth it. Yeah.
But getting to the player props, Joe, like one of the things I think that we should drive home here is be smart with your props and do it correlated, right? I mean, if you think the Eagles are going to win this game, what is the most likely scenario they're going to win this game, right? They're probably going to have some success rushing. So look at the player props from a Jay Ajayi or for a LeGarrette Blount or even a Clement or something like that. Whenever it comes down to it, like that's the most likely scenario that if they're going to win, they're going to have some success rushing the ball. If you think that they're going to get the hell beat out of them, maybe look at some of these overs on the receivers, because when you get down, you start throwing the ball all over the place. So total receptions for Aguilar, yardage for Aguilar, maybe even same thing for Ertz. Like these are the things that as you figure out how you believe the game is going to go, be sure and make your bets correlated, because I've seen so many times, like I'll have friends go, hey, here's what I'm betting. And it's like, there's 9 different bets and none of them have any, like you're damned to losing half of them because you haven't correlated your at anything. So you can't make any money no matter how it turns out. So just be sure when you're going with stuff, that you're correlating kind of how this is going to go. I mean, listen, if the if the Eagles are going to, if you feel that they're going to struggle heavily, I mean, like there's a good chance that Nick Foles has a bad day. So, I mean, you could go with over on interceptions. You could go with under on yardage. I mean, these are all things that I think you really can get an edge. I think there actually is edge in these props if you actually think things through a little bit.
I'm going to play under on LeGarrette Blount rushing yards. I think he might be used in goal line situations and very much short yardage situations, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. I don't think he's going to have a big game, though. I don't think he's a big part of this offense in that regard. I think that job has moved over to Jay Ajayi. I think Corey Clement sees some touches. I think if you're looking for an Eagle running back to get behind, it'd be Ajayi, but more than anything, you should be fading LeGarrette Blount. Now, that doesn't have to deal with touchdowns, because if they get down on the 1, Blunt's going to come into the game. So I'd keep an eye on that. But total yardage, I'd be going under on LeGarrette Blount. Conversely, on the Patriots side, James White, we haven't seen much of him this season. The Patriots love to shuffle running backs in and out. James White was the big hero in last year's Super Bowl against Atlanta. Wouldn't be surprised to see some unders for James White, overs for James White. Overs on receptions, overs on rushing yards, receiving yards, especially in the passing game.
Yeah, a couple of the player props that stood out to me. Listen, Rex Burkhead didn't really see the field a lot last, when we last saw this team, but they were playing from a very big deficit, and that's really not what Rex Burkhead was going to be used for. I mean, that's where you use the Dion Lewis's and James White's a little bit more. If you believe that the Patriots are going to be playing from ahead here, I mean, I've seen rushing totals for Rex Burkhead in the like 14.5, 15.5 range. If you believe that they're going to have a ton of success here, you're taking the over on the Rex Burkhead yardage all day long. Now, if you think that they're going to struggle, if you think that this Eagles defense is going to shut them down, then this is an under all day long on Rex Burkhead, because he's not going to see the field, right? I mean, it's going to be James White, it's going to be Dion Lewis in there. But, those are the things where I think that you can look at, a guy like this Patriots team is going to always, Bill Belichick is always going to play to his strengths. I mean, you're going to see Rex Burkhead if they are up 17 points. That's just going to happen. I mean, like, he is going to be the guy toting the rock. He's going to be the guy holding the ball. So, I mean, these are things that I think that we can take advantage of as well. I mean, and like I mentioned, Nelson Aguilar, if you think there are props out there at like 3.5 catches for Nelson Aguilar, I've seen 3.5, I've seen 4. If you think this Eagles team is going to get way down, I would take the over on that as well. I mean, I know that it seems like, I'm saying, Joe, like you mentioned, a lot of the unders are going to be popular, and I think there's a ton to take advantage of there as well. But for me, if you kind of figure out that they're going to struggle here, that there's some that seem a little obvious to me.
Yeah, and
I like the under on Gronk.
Yeah, the under on Gronk, but I mean, same thing with the Patriots, right? So, I mean, if you think the Patriots are going to be playing from down and playing catch up, then Gronk and Amendola and Chris Hogan could certainly become a very real threat, and you get some a nice price on him. So,
if you look at Hogan, I mean, like if you look at Hogan's like yardage, if you think that there's a chance that the Patriots could get down, I mean, like I think his yardage totals at one of the books right now, I think we can find it at Bovada at 37.5. I mean, this is. That's a good bet.
If the Patriots get down, it's a real good bet.
On the Hogan side of things. But then if they're dominating, I mean, we saw Chris Hogan not really play much of a factor here in the last few weeks whenever they've been ahead. Like whenever they're ahead, Chris Hogan kind of fades away. So, Joe, what do you like about the under with the Gronk here? I mean, I can get
5
behind
receptions.
That.
I don't think he gets the 6 receptions. That's what I'm thinking. He's not 100%. Like, I'm surprised that we haven't just heard for a guy who had a concussion. I'm surprised he just wasn't cleared early and they said Gronk's going to be fine. Like, there's still some mystery here. Now, I don't know if that's the Patriots possibly trying to screw around with something. I don't know what to make of it, but I don't think he's 100%. Anyone you talk to, you haven't heard anyone be like, Gronk's going to be fine. I think we see him in this game, but I think something's wrong. And I think the Eagles know coming in, you can't let Gronk destroy you in this football game. That doesn't mean you're going to shut him down completely, but for him to get to 6 receptions, again, talk about game flow. If Nick Foles has a disastrous performance and Tom Brady and the Patriots get up big, they're not going to be throwing it to Gronk all game. Yeah. So that eliminates that scenario. If they're playing from behind, the Eagles are going to be keying on Gronk in the red zone. He'll probably be double teamed. I don't see him getting the 6 receptions. I would play under the 5 in that scenario.
And I think then if you want to try to correlate stuff, do you believe then if they're going to be able to shut Gronk down a little bit, do you like Amendola a little bit better? Do you like
That's where you would
Amendola?
move it to. Yeah. I have a feeling the Eagle corners get a lot of respect for how well they've played, but they're gamblers. They're gamblers by nature. They take a lot of risks and they commit some big penalties. Someone's going to get beat at some point in this game. Between Mills and Darby, they take way too many risks. Now, that's why they come up with a lot of big plays, but that's also why they can get toasted. So I think a guy like Amendola, he can make his nut in one reception. I could see something like that with the over receiving yards, one big play, and Danny Amendola is sailing free.
Here's, the other bet that I'm really going to be looking at here is, and we'll obviously get our sides and where we're leaning here, but second half betting, if the Patriots are losing, I will probably lay whatever number they lay for the Patriots. I believe, this is a Belichick coach team that's going to go in at halftime and make adjustments and come out and probably be solid in the second half. So if for any reason the Patriots are losing at halftime, I will probably lay whatever that total is, whatever that number is, with the Patriots. I believe in Belichick. I believe in Brady that much, in a game like this.
Maybe you should write a book. I believe in Brady. I believe in Belichick.
Be a bestseller. No one's ever heard that hot take before. Yeah.
I mean, look, if you think that this is, if you believe in this Patriots team, like, would you not, let's say they come out with a second half line of 4.5, something like that. I mean, do you not see them outscoring the Eagles by a touchdown in the second half, even if
they're a great adjustment team? We saw it against Jacksonville, but again, how much weight do you want to put on the Patriots coming back to win that game and Jacksonville giving that game away? I mean, that was really poorly performed by Jacksonville. So some of that resides in the wheelhouse of Doug Peterson and his management, but I'm not going to disagree with you. I've seen the Patriots play big in the second half time and time again. Look at them in the Super Bowl last year. That was a good Atlanta team. That was a really good Atlanta team. We've seen this novel before, so it's tough to sit there and say, yeah, I don't like the Patriots in the second half. They'll make their adjustments and they get additional time because of the long halftime show.
Again, SBRodds.com. All the links are right below us if you want to find your favorite book and make your favorite wagers. And this brings us to that very important part of the show where you guys tell us where you're leaning, where you're putting your money on the Super Bowl come Sunday. Matt?
Emotionally, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask because I grew up as an Eagle fan, so I'm not going to expect anyone to put any weight behind what I say. So I'm not even really going to mess with the side here. I'll play the under. I think the public gets involved. They play some overs. Maybe it gets up to 48.5. I'm going to play the under for the game. I'm going to play the under for the first half as well. I think each team's going to try to feel each other out. I think New England's defense is going to have some success against Nick Foles, and I also think Philadelphia's defense is going to have some success slowing down New England, at least in the first half of the game. Follow the Jacksonville playbook. There are a lot of playmakers on that Philadelphia defense. They are going to cause problems for the New England offensive line. This is a very difficult matchup for the Patriots. I don't see it being a total shootout. I'm not going to give you a side. I will give you a total, though. Under first half 24, under game 48.5 if it gets there.
And totally get that respect that you're invested in the Eagles. Matt, you're dead inside. So what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, listen, here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is the battle of the two worst fan bases in the history of the world. And so, like, I would love nothing more for this game to end in a tie, but that's that's impossible. So we can't go there, but good night. I mean, these are horrible. Don't
watch it. Go play tennis.
Yeah.
Watch it if you don't like it so much.
Yeah, that's I'll definitely be doing that. One of the things I didn't bring up from a prop bet standpoint, and this is something that I'll probably bet as well, is will there be a missed extra point? And if you look on the Eagles side of the ball, Jake Elliott missed 3 extra points this year and then was 3 of 7 on field goals from 30 to 39 yards. So he weirdly can bomb these 60-yard, 55-yard, 50-yard field goals. And like when he gets closer, he gets the yips for whatever it might be. So one of the prop bets I think that I'll be looking at is definitely a missed extra point here. Look, let's talk about how this goes down. Can the Eagles front four get pressure on Tom Brady? Because that is really and truly the only way that I see them actually winning this game. Because at the end of the day, even if Nick Foles plays a good game, Tom Brady versus Nick Foles, this offense versus that defense, I'm going to take the Patriots offense 9 times out of 10. You've got Tom Brady, highest rated quarterback in the league at his age 40 season. Just absurd. Ben Roethlisberger was number 2 grade quarterback on Pro Football Focus, and he was closer to number 7 than he was to Tom Brady. Like, that's how awesome Tom Brady was this year. To doubt him, I think, is a fool's errand here. Joe, I like the under in this as well, though. I do believe that they will score, but I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game per se. I think we get the point, or I think we get the half point or the point come day of the game, because like you mentioned, the public does not like to root for defense. They want to see scores. They want to be cheering. They want to see, the scoreboard get lit up. So I think we get that. I like the under there as well. And I like the money line for the Patriots here. Listen, 4.5. I have a small investment at 4.5, but the actual, minus 175, minus 170 that we see out there, just the money line on the Patriots here. I think this is a really good value. I think that they win this game.
All right, gentlemen. Fantastic insight as always. Thanks to our
buddy.
friends.
Where are you at?
Oh, I'm
Super Bowl.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm taking the under, and I'm taking the Patriots -4. And I'll tell you why. I mean, I expected that regression for Nick Foles to come in the Minnesota game. It didn't. There's a lot of recency bias that I think has pushed this number down. The fact that you can get it at 4, when I thought this line would close at 6 or maybe even 6.5, I thought it'd be closer to that future number, is kind of obscene to me. So the Patriots are the miracle workers. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles definitely had some magic on their side in those 2 games at home where they had their entire legion of fans behind them. I think, Joe, I'm sorry that it slows down a little bit. Yes, I'm salty against the Eagles. Go Patriots. I hate Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, but in this one instance, I'll be rooting for them because I'll be putting my money on the Pats.
Nothing more than your classic troll job.
Listen,
that's all that was right there.
Again, if this could just be a tie. I mean, if this could just be a tie.
The really good news is they don't have to grease up. They don't have to grease up the light poles in Minneapolis because they're frozen. So
there is but I will let you wrap this up, Dave. But there is a prop bet of the temperature outside in Minneapolis to the number of first quarter Patriot points.
Wow. So just you guys.
God.
I'm going to the
because
Super
it's supposed
Bowl
to be like 7 degrees or something.
Yeah. I'm going to the Super Bowl on Thursday.
Awesome.
I'm flying out there, and 39 degrees on Wednesday, and it drops to 7 as the high on Thursday. So welcome home, Dave. It'll be great to go back to Minnesota.
I hope that happens right before you get there.
I mean, like right before I walk off the plane.
like as you get off the plane, it just plummets 30 degrees.
All right, welcome back to Minnesota, you jerk.
It just happened.
Big thanks to our friends at SBRodds.com. What a fun season this has been. You guys are absolutely awesome. Again, SBRodds.com, links right below us. Thank you guys so much for supporting us throughout this season. It's been a whole lot of fun working with you guys as well. So alongside Joe Fortenbaugh, Matt Brown, producer Robert, my name's Dave Farah. Thank you for watching the Play Action Podcast.